Have you ever walked into an old building and wondered how it's still standing, looking as solid as the day it was built? Believe it or not, some of the wood used in early America was harder than concrete and could last over 100 years. Today, most people have never even heard of it, and yet it shaped the cities, homes, and industries we still live in. Welcome back to Gardens Heaven. I'm so glad you're here, because in this video we're diving deep into the incredible wood that built America, why it lasted for generations, how it shaped construction, and most importantly, why we stopped using it. Before we get started, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dives into nature, history, and all things that make your garden and your world amazing. And while you're at it, drop a comment telling me if you could rebuild your home with one natural material that lasts a century, what would it be? I can't wait to see your answers. Back in early America, wood wasn't just a building material, it was the backbone of every community. Settlers arrived with little more than determination and axes, and they built homes, barns, bridges, and even entire towns from the forests around them. These weren't flimsy structures. Many were designed to last decades, even centuries. Timber was everywhere, abundant, and incredibly versatile. Every plank, beam, and post came from trees that had been growing for generations, soaking up the sun, rain, and nutrients to form dense, resilient wood. But not all wood was created equal. Among the countless trees lining rivers and valleys, there was one that stood above the rest, the longleaf pine. The heartwood from these giants became what we now call heart pine, and it was prized for its unmatched strength and longevity. While today's lumber might come from younger, faster-growing trees, old-growth longleaf pines were dense, tight-grained, and rich with natural resin. That resin made the wood resistant to rot, insects, and decay, allowing beams to last a lifetime and floors to endure constant foot traffic without warping. Builders loved heart pine because it didn't just stand up to time, it stood up to life. Mills, churches, and homes built with this wood often lasted over a century, some even two, and because it was so strong, it could be milled into long, wide boards, something that modern trees rarely provide. Every structure carried a story of resilience, craftsmanship, and careful use of resources. But there's more to the story than just durability. Heart pine had a beauty all its own. Its warm amber tones deepened over decades, and its grain told the tale of centuries of growth. Walking across a heart pine floor was like stepping onto history itself. And yet, despite all these advantages, we eventually stopped using it. To understand why, we need to look at how America changed, how forests were harvested, industrialization took over, and building codes and materials shifted. But before we get there, let's take a closer look at heart pine itself, what makes it so special, and why it was truly harder than concrete in both strength and endurance. So, what made heart pine so extraordinary? Let's break it down. The longleaf pine trees that produced this wood weren't your average saplings. Many had been growing for a century or more before they were ever cut. Over that time, they developed extremely tight growth rings, making the heartwood dense, heavy, and incredibly strong. In fact, in terms of hardness, it could rival, and in some cases outperform, oak and even some concrete under certain pressures. But strength wasn't its only superpower. Heart pine is naturally rich in resin, which gives it a natural resistance to rot, mold, and insects. Floors, beams, and support posts made from this wood could withstand decades of use without significant wear. Even in damp conditions, it resisted warping and decay far better than most modern lumber. Builders at the time knew they were working with a material that could truly endure for generations. This wood was also extremely versatile. Its density allowed it to be milled into wide boards that today's fast-grown lumber simply cannot match. That meant fewer joints, fewer weak points, and a much stronger overall structure. Barns, churches, homes, and mills built from heart pine didn't just survive, they thrived, standing tall through storms, heavy foot traffic, and even minor fires. And here's the kicker. It got more beautiful with age. The amber tones of heart pine deepen over decades, creating floors and beams that carry both strength and character. What's fascinating is that while today we might think of concrete as the ultimate long-lasting building material, in many cases, heart pine held up just as well, if not better. Reinforced concrete can crack, steel can rust, and cement can crumble. A well-built wooden structure with heart pine, properly maintained, could easily last over a century without major repairs. The craftsmanship, combined with the quality of the wood, made it nearly indestructible. And yet, despite its unmatched qualities, heart pine slowly disappeared from the American construction scene. By the early 1900s, much of the old-growth longleaf pine forests had been clear-cut, leaving little left to harvest. Industrialization, faster-growing tree farms, and the rise of concrete and steel made heart pine increasingly rare and expensive. What was once abundant and celebrated became a precious relic. Before we dive into why America fully shifted away from this incredible wood, let's take a closer look at some iconic examples that still stand today. From old mills in the South to historic homes in Charleston and Savannah, these structures are living proof of what heart pine can do. They are not just buildings, they are monuments to a time when people built to last, not just to sell. Now you might be thinking, if heart pine was so incredible, why did builders switch to concrete and steel? To answer that, we need to compare wood and concrete and look at how construction priorities changed over time. Concrete is impressive. It can last hundreds of years if done right. But there's a catch. Modern reinforced concrete contains steel, and steel corrodes over time, especially in wet or salty environments. Cracks form, water seeps in, and suddenly that long-lasting promise starts to fall apart. Heart pine, on the other hand, had natural resistance to rot and insects, and when maintained properly, it could outlast many concrete structures in real-world conditions. In some ways, those old wooden buildings were more resilient than anything poured from cement. So why did the shift happen? It wasn't because wood failed. It was because of human choice, economics, and evolving technology. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, America had largely harvested the old-growth longleaf pine forests. What remained was either too scarce or too expensive for mass construction. Builders still needed a reliable material, so they turned to concrete and steel, which could be produced in large quantities and shipped across the country. Safety codes played a huge role as well. Massive urban fires, like the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, changed perceptions about wood. Cities wanted buildings that wouldn't burn down, and concrete and steel offered a solution that insurance companies and city planners loved. Suddenly, even the strongest, most resilient wood couldn't compete with the fireproof promise of concrete. Industrialization accelerated the shift. Railroads and factories made concrete and steel easy to transport, prefabricate, and standardize. Builders could pour a steel-reinforced structure faster than they could mill, transport, and assemble centuries-old heart pine. Speed, scale, and safety all began to outweigh longevity and natural beauty. But it wasn't just practical concerns. Cultural preferences also changed. Modern architecture embraced clean lines, large spans, and minimalist design. Concrete and steel allowed architects to create bold new forms that old-growth wood couldn't easily achieve. Over time, people forgot just how strong, beautiful, and long-lasting heart pine truly was. It became a memory, a footnote in the history of American construction. Still, even today, some historic structures are proof that wood can rival concrete in durability. Old mills, barns, and homes built with heart pine are still standing, decades after similar concrete buildings began to crack or crumble. It's a reminder that the material itself wasn't the problem. It was the loss of forests, the rise of new technologies, and shifting priorities that ended the golden age of American timber. Even though heart pine largely disappeared from American construction, wood isn't gone from modern building. It's making a comeback in exciting ways. Today, architects and builders are experimenting with engineered wood products like mass timber and cross-laminated timber. These materials combine layers of wood in precise ways, creating panels and beams that are stronger than steel in some applications, lighter than concrete, and able to span incredible distances. They allow builders to construct multi-story buildings using renewable materials, bringing the durability and beauty of wood back into the modern skyline. One of the most remarkable things about these new techniques is sustainability. Wood stores carbon, meaning it can actively help fight climate change when used responsibly. It's faster to build with, lighter to transport, and often less energy intensive than pouring concrete or producing steel. In other words, we're rediscovering the same benefits our ancestors had with heart pine, but now we can scale them to meet the needs of modern cities. But there's also a lesson from the past. The buildings of early America weren't just strong, they were designed to last, to endure generations, and to make careful use of available resources. They remind us that longevity and quality matter just as much as cost and convenience. Modern construction sometimes prioritizes speed and price over durability, but the examples of heart pine show what's possible when craftsmanship meets extraordinary materials. And it's not just about engineering or sustainability, it's about connecting with history. Walking across a floor made of reclaimed heart pine, or seeing a timber frame in a modern office, is like touching a story that began centuries ago. It's a reminder that materials can carry memory, resilience, and beauty in ways that steel and concrete often cannot. So, as we think about the buildings we create today, there's a question we can't ignore. What if we combined the wisdom of the past with modern technology? What if we chose materials not just for speed or profit, but for longevity, strength, and environmental impact? That's the challenge and the opportunity that modern wood gives us. And now we come full circle. The wood that built America wasn't just a building material. It was a testament to patience, resilience, and craftsmanship. Heart pine and other old-growth timbers lasted for generations, stood up to storms and fires, and carried the warmth and beauty of natural history into every home, mill, and church. But we stopped using it, not because it failed, but because our forests were over-harvested. Technology changed, and priorities shifted towards speed, cost, and fireproof materials. Concrete and steel became the new standard, and much of the knowledge about building for longevity was lost along the way. Yet, the lessons of the past remain. Strong, durable, beautiful materials can shape communities that endure, and modern innovations in wood, like mass timber and cross-laminated panels, show us that we can bring that legacy back. So what does this mean for you? It means that when we make choices about our homes, gardens, and buildings, we have the power to honor both the past and the future. Choosing materials thoughtfully, maintaining what we build, and recognizing the value of durability over convenience can leave a legacy that lasts for generations. Imagine stepping into a home that could still be standing 100 years from now, built with the same care and respect as those early settlers used. That's not just construction, it's history alive. If you found this dive into America's legendary wood as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any of our deep dives into nature, history, and the amazing ways they intersect. And tell me in the comments, if you could restore or build something with heart pine today, what would it be? I'd love to hear your ideas. Thank you for spending these few minutes with me, exploring the incredible story of the wood that built America. Remember, every tree has a story, and every building tells a legacy. Keep exploring, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next video.